against a child. And of course, I'll have to do trigger warnings and stuff. So I'm not going to talk about that today. But what we will talk about is this POS pediatrician. She was a pediatrician, and look at the things that she had to say. Look at the things that she had to say. I'm just gonna go ahead and read the story. Let me just get into it a little more so you guys can see it a little better. A pediatrician has been fired over a vile post suggesting that more than 80 killed in the horrific Texas floods, including dozens of kids, were President Trump supporters who got what they voted for. Dr. Christina B. Probst drew widespread scorn following the disparaging since deleted post under her old Facebook username, Christina, according to Mediate. May all visitors, children, non-MAGA voters, and pets be safe and dry, Probst wrote in a now viral post. Yeah, that's the dumb bee right there. That was the destruction, the mass destruction that happened in Texas this last week. This is the camp where these beautiful children were camping, and the water flooded. That was at Camp Mystic after the destructive flooding ravaged the area. Kirk County MAGA voted to get FEMA. They deny climate change. May they get what they voted for. Bless their hearts. The Facebook post quickly went viral after a screenshot was shared by libs of TikTok. Probst's employer, Bluefish Pediatrics, initially said the employee had been suspended before announcing that the individual is no longer employed there. Bravo. Bravo. And you know what? And I bet you they weren't a right-wing Trump supporter. She probably wouldn't work for someone who was like that. But that person who decided to let them go knew what she said was awful. Disparaging is an understatement. And there's her post. I will put her name. No, never mind. I don't want to raise an angry mob and raid her social media. Just let them all deal with that. We don't need to get involved in that. Well, I'm just here to report what's going on. We do not support or condone any statement that politicizes tragedy, diminishes human dignity, or fails to clearly uphold compassion for every child and family, regardless of background or beliefs, the doctor's office said. Right. She's a pediatrician. She works for a pediatrics hospital. What the F was she thinking, dude? A previous initial statement saying that she had been placed on leave was shared by the head of the Texas Medical Board, Dr. Sheriff Zafran. There is no place for politicization. The entire focus needs to be on looking for survivors. Any complaints we may receive will be thoroughly investigated, he posted on X. To our patients and community, yeah, they had to come out with this statement. To our patients and community, this past weekend, we were made aware of a social media comment from one of our physicians. The individual is no longer employed by Bluefish Pediatrics. As we previously mentioned in our original statement, we strongly condemn the comments that were made, in fact, in that post. That post does not reflect the values, standards, or mission of the Bluefish Pediatrics. We do not support or condone any statement that politicizes that politicizes tragedy, diminishes human dignity, or fails to clearly uphold compassion for every child, family, regardless of background or beliefs. Exactly. Why would anyone say that? and then to make it political, that's derangement syndrome. That's Trump derangement syndrome. Absolutely. It absolutely is. As we previously mentioned in our original statement, we strongly condemn the comments that were made in that post. That post does not reflect the values, standards, or mission of Bluefish Pediatrics. We do not support or condone any statements that politicizes tragedy, diminishes human dignity, or fails to clearly uphold compassion for every child or family, regardless of background or beliefs. We continue to extend our full support to the families and the surrounding communities who are grieving, recovering, and searching for hope. Sincerely, Bluefish Pediatrics leadership team. Yeah, that is bizarre. The Texas Medical Board has not announced a formal investigation. The callous post prompted immense backlash online. Please tell us this person is not allowed anywhere near patients in Texas. Our social media user wrote. Yeah. She looks like a left-wing Karen, 1,000%. 1,000%. And now, don't get it twisted. There's right-wing Karens too. I've seen it. I know some. I'm friends with some. Houston pediatrician Dr. Kenisa Probst came under fire now for the now deleted social media posts. We are residents here and find this beyond horrific and also very dangerous. Please help, they added. Dangerous because of the backlash that she could have. She could get hurt. I'm not saying she should get hurt, but she could get hurt by the crazies, right? The crazies on both sides. There is crazies on both sides, and at the very least, she's going to get death threats for sure. But there's crazies on both sides, I assure you. So I don't know. This is the sort of pediatrician clinician employed at Bluefish Media or Bluefish MD in Houston. The ethics, humanity, and empathy illustrated here is unfathomable. Yeah, they're probably going to get a lot of backlash in their community where they're located. People are definitely going to lead them no matter what they do. Absolutely. I'm just going to read on and do this whole article. Then I have a real jackwagon to show you. The doctor appeared to have changed her username and profile image on Facebook since the post went viral. Several ex-users noted Probst's profile pages were taken down from both the Bluefish Pediatrics site and the website for Memorial Hermann Health System, which is associated with Bluefish Pediatrics. That's just a layout of where the tragedy happened. Unbelievable. And look it's not showing where their beds are. Oh, look, their beds were way up here where that red outline is. And the water came up that high. Gosh. And so fast. It came up so fast. Look at that. It just destroyed it. Can we get threes and prayers for these children? Hey, mahalo to you. Arca's chicken gun. Yeah, could we please get prayers for these children? Please. For the children's families, for understanding, because we all know, and you guys definitely know how I feel with 4 daughters. If I just lost one of those daughters to a tragic event like that, which is nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. Unfortunately, I just hope they can understand that God's planning is always perfect, no matter how tragic it seems. I know it sucks, but I would hope, I don't know how much comfort that would give me. And I love God. I know I'd be pissed off for a long time, but I just hope that they're not pissed off like I would be for very long. And they just understand that they will be with their children again, that they absolutely will. Memorial Hermann also acknowledged the controversy in statement. We are aware of statements made by a physician on social media and strongly condemn these statements. This provider is not employed by Memorial Hermann. We have zero tolerance for such rhetoric. which does not reflect the mission, vision, or values of our system, the healthcare system said. Yeah. Oh man, I want to watch this story. Maybe we'll come back and watch that together. I haven't seen that yet. But listen to what this jackwagon said. And really what she needs to do, she needs to learn how to talk. Just take a listen.
Y'all scary as fuck, and I don't give a damn. Them little girls, them people died because of racism, not politics. Boom, I said it. I don't give a fuck.
Idiot.
And I said no. Nope. Because more YT people will have to DIE.
More YouTube people will have to die. Why does she hate YouTube people? She on her post it says racism wrote a check that your ass couldn't cash. Yep. If she's anyone big on YouTube, or I mean on TikTok or wherever the hell she's lives at, in a swamp somewhere, she has been canceled now. I bet you. But maybe that's what her audience likes to hear. I don't know. But she's doing it for attention, clicks, and attention, because she knows that this kind of attention will get her those clicks. Look, this isn't from hers. This is from someone who reported on this, who's a friend on X. So I'm giving him the click. But
in order for motherfuckers to what? CARE. I said what the fuck I said. I don't give a fuck, and minds are here with me. We voted the correct way. You reap what the fuck you sow. Just the night before the flash flood happened, y'all were okay with motherfuckers being stripped away from their motherfucking families and never seeing them again. People being deported. Y'all were okay with that. Be okay with not finding Sarah Lou. Be okay with not finding Billy. Be okay with never seeing them again. Keep that same energy, because I'm here for it. I am so here for it. Because I've been reading the comments and the shit y'all be saying. Y'all didn't give a fuck when it was brown people. We sorry that it's white people now, but
racist, man. Racism.
That's going to happen. This is going to be a repetitive cycle going to happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until y'all get tired. Racism cost y'all more than y'all thought. Racism wrote what's that line? Racism wrote a check that your ass couldn't cash. Yeah, racism wrote a check that your ass couldn't cash. And guess who's paying for it? Okay.
She doesn't even know how to talk. She said you reap what you sow. It's reap what you sow, not reek what you sow. That's first. Secondly, I show you guys that to show you what the opposition is like out there. They're that nuts to say. First, they say they don't believe in God, but this is God punishing us for being racist. I thought there was no God, or so this is karma. But you're using biblical statements like reap what you sow. So I don't know, but it's ugly. She's ugly. Those statements are ugly, and I don't mean physically. I'm just saying her whole outlook and belief on that tragic situation. Who would say that? Well, I guess she would. I wasn't planning on playing this, but let's take a look at this real quick. I haven't had a chance to see too much just because I have my family and
looking for answers in Texas. How did over 100 people end up dead from catastrophic flooding? Were emergency alerts enough? Plus, dinner date, what President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussed in a White House dining room Monday evening. And billionaire bash, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Cook, Gates, and more gather for the annual Sun Valley Conference in Idaho, and AI tops the list for discussion. Those stories and more today, Tuesday, July 8th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast.
find
Guess
it.
who's coming to dinner? Benjamin Netanyahu, and he brought quite the hostess gift. Bibi and President Trump dined together at the White House Monday night, and the Israeli Prime Minister
would be placed close together so that they could not only predict a wall of water coming and predict it earlier than what the
However, there are still serious questions about operations in places like Kerr County, where 27 campers and counselors at a Christian summer camp all perished. The camp was positioned in what locals call Flash Flood Alley, and officials there had discussed installing a flood warning system along the Guadalupe River as far back as 2017, but they decided that it simply would just be too expensive. The price tag on a similar system in a nearby county was $2 million. A former Kerr County commissioner who spoke to the Post admitted that such a system, quote, could have helped a lot of people. For more on all this, we're joined now by Post Texas reporter Jenny Terr. So, Jenny, how do these riverside warning systems work, and how might they have changed what happened?
Right. So there are these pieces of technology called gauges that would be in the water in the Guadalupe River, and they would be placed close together so that they could not only predict a wall of water coming and predict it earlier than what these residents, what these tourists, what these people who were affected by this flood had. So it would also tell us, how fast this wall of water was moving, how quickly people needed to prepare, and so on. But we know that county officials are saying that they didn't have these mechanisms in place because of funding issues, that taxpayers didn't want to foot the bill for this. So this is becoming a big blame game now about what could have been in place and why it wasn't in place.
See, I just don't agree with the blame game at all. What's done is done. Now, let's just make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. Playing the blame game achieves nothing. These guys going back and forth. Oh, if you would have done this, this wouldn't have happened. Like, look, the tragedy happened. Let's focus all of our energy on making sure things like this don't happen again, especially in a place called Flash Flood Alley.
And, there's big questions about that.
Big questions, and of course, hindsight always 2020. I want to talk about the search and rescue efforts. They're ongoing here, but in addition to that, the investigation phase has begun. So what are the kinds of questions that investigators are trying to get answers to now?
Right, so they're looking into what the warnings were that happened in the day before this occurred, and then the day in the morning that it happened, the early morning hours, because there were meetings with officials in weather departments that were discussing these flash floods that they saw coming, but they didn't see necessarily the concentration that ended up happening, that the storm really hovered over Kerr County and really inundated that area with water, which then we know caused death and destruction. So they're looking into those those alert systems that went into place following those meetings in the hours in the late night of July 3rd into the early morning of July 4th, which we know is when the flood took place in those early morning hours. And so had there been more warning systems in place, that's one of the questions. Not only were there the correct warnings at the time, but was there a need for more? This is an area with limited cell service. This is an area with limited internet service. Some people turn off the notifications on their phones for such alerts. Could they have had other forms of technology that would have alerted them to this? This is something that's being discussed, the NOAA radios that would have given a sound when something was happening, when they would have had a flash flood emergency warning, and that would have overridden, any kind of cell service issue or anything like that. And it also would have helped in the case of being indoors sleeping, because it sends a pretty loud signal. Even alarms that I've heard about that could have been installed outdoors, outside of cabins or outside of these RV parks, some people may have slept through them. So this is what experts are telling me just about what could have been in place, what was in place, and where they're looking to kind of make changes.
Now, you mentioned that the blame game has really started already. And you also mentioned, of course, that some of these mechanisms, these safety mechanisms, are taxpayer funded. So, of course, there is a political conversation to have here. Democrats like Julian Castro and Chuck Schumer are asking for an inquiry into Doge cuts and whether or not they impacted this tragedy. So, what can you tell?
Well, there you go. They're looking to blame it on the Doge cuts, which possibly, right? I guess. Grateful 1111. It's good to see you, Grateful. Glad you're here this afternoon. I am pretty sure the parents want some answers, though. Sadly, we live in an era where the best made-up lie explains something is what we hear. Well said. Well said. Absolutely. And we're probably gonna hear, and I agree. To get to the parents wanting answers, I agree. I would want answers. And I guess I would be blaming a ton of people. I don't, of course, that's not going to make anyone feel better. But I would probably be doing the same thing. And it's easy for me to say on the outside, looking in to say, oh, playing the blame game, it doesn't, is it going to fix things for the next time? And it doesn't. But I think some people deserve answers and deserve to be blaming people. But I think commentators and politicians who get involved in the blame game are definitely doing it for whatever clout, with their political party, and it's ugly and it's disgusting. Even when the side I support does it, it's ugly and disgusting. I just don't say it's only the left that does it, for sure not. Let's finish this story.
Tell us about that. Is this just politics being politics, or is there something to this?
Yeah, well, I've spoken with some experts in meteorology, in emergency management and preparedness, and they all say that this really is not about the National Weather Service and their response to this, which is what these Doge cuts were. This is more about the local infrastructure that we're looking at now, and possibly just the fact that there were a lot of compounding elements here that made it really difficult to alert people. It was the fact that this was in the middle of the night when people were asleep in a rural area. This is an area in Texas that is very tourist heavy. People are coming in for the July 4th weekend. They're coming to use the river and have, adventurous outdoor activities going on. And so this is just something that you have all these compounding elements that made it the perfect storm, not only for this to come in, but also for people to not really know what to do, or maybe, not to receive these warnings. And so that really created the biggest problems here, according to the experts I've spoken to.
Now it just becomes a point of recovery moving forward and waiting to get answers to some of these questions for prevention looking ahead. Jenny Terra, thank you so much.
Yep, that's right. We just need to prevent it from happening again. And hopefully they can get to that and figure that out sometime. Let's go to the chat, see what you guys have to say about all of this drama.